This is Gado News. Good evening. This is your trusted window in the world of finance and national development. Welcome. My name is Abdul Fattah Oturi, and the program is Money and the Economy. Thank God it's Friday, another quiet threshold inviting the soul to pause and reflect upon the rhythm of life. In observing the skies, I'm reminded that no matter the storms or the silence, the sun holds its course. It rises with purpose and sets without delay, unmoved by the weather, untouched by the chaos below. It neither lingers nor hurries. It simply fulfills its journey, faithfully and without excuse. So it is with man. We're each on a passage, rising, moving, and inevitably setting at our own appointed time. Let no one be deceived. There is no magical restart after the rains. To think that time will pause for us to continue at leisure is an illusion, one that often leads to bitter awakening when the twilight falls. Therefore, let us be found doing good while it is day, not caught in excuses, but clothed in the quiet dignity of efforts and purpose. For in the end, it is not the reasons we did not act that will matter, but the works we bring forth as the sun sets on our time. Take heart, be steady, the journey continues. On Money and the Economy tonight, the Monetary Policy Committee reaches unanimous agreement.
The committee was unanimous in its decision to hold policy.
The nation's banking system remains stable, your funds secure. Who's saying this? President Bola Ahmed Tinubu pledges to reshape Nigeria's economy by harnessing local potential and championing decentralized development. And Minister Adegboyega Oyetola welcomes the French ambassador seeking France's backing for Nigeria's IMO Council bid. And now, to help us make sense of the shifting sands and steady signals of the financial week, we're joined by our own Harriet Adams, bringing us the highlights from the central bank's latest review and a look at key market trends. Harriet, it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Abdul, and thank you for joining us. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has again assured the public that the banking sector is stable and their funds are safe, contrary to certain publications and social media reports. This is contained in a statement issued by the Acting Director, Corporate Communications of the CBN, Hakama Sidi Ali, in Abuja. The statement says, like all other regulatory institutions, the financial institutions mentioned in the reports are held to stringent regulatory requirements, and there is no cause for alarm regarding the safety of depositors' funds. It says the Apex Bank will continue to monitor all financial institutions under its regulatory purview and maintain robust frameworks for early warning signals and risk-based supervision. The Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, has called for France's support for Nigeria's bid to secure a seat in Category C of the International Maritime Organization IMO Council later in the year. Oyetola made the call in his office in Abuja while receiving the French ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Mark van Boster. The call came as Nigeria intensifies her campaign for election into Category C of the International Maritime Organization IMO Council, an ambition the minister firmly anchored during the meeting. Responding, Ambassador Mark said France looked forward to Nigeria's robust engagement at the conference and to furthering bilateral cooperation in marine sustainability, security, and development. President Bola Tinubu has pledged his administration's commitment to economic transformation, focusing on food security and regional inclusion. The president stated this on Wednesday in Jalingo at the opening of the Taraba International Investment Summit 2025, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima. President Tinubu gave an assurance that his administration will transform the economy using a bottom-up approach, leveraging local resources and decentralizing development. Tinubu also identified food security along with regional economic inclusion as the main determinant of Nigeria's long-term stability. And straight to stock news. At the end of the last weekday of trading on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, NGX, a total of 637,541,391 shares in 15,927 deals, corresponding to a market value of 18,122,397,633 naira 9 kobo were traded. Compared to the previous NGX trading day, today's data shows 15% decline in volume, 39% decline in deals. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is 68.5 trillion naira in the aggregate. 126 NGX-listed equities participated in trading, ending with 30 gainers and 22 losers. On the CBN exchange market, the US dollar exchanges for 1,584 naira 95 kobo. The pound sterling exchanges for 2,127 naira 96 kobo, while the euro goes for 1,791 naira 95 kobo. The Bunny Lights that crude oil sells for $66.28 per barrel. Inflation rate is 23.71%, while monetary policy rate MPR remains 27.5%. That's the CBN review for the week. It's back to you, Abdul, for the rest of the program. I am Harriet Adams. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Harriet. Now, the Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, convened for its landmark 300th meeting on the 19th and 20th of May 2025 to assess prevailing developments within both the domestic and global economic landscapes and to evaluate the risks that lie on the horizon. Notably, all 12 members of the committee were present, and in a rare show of unanimity, they reached a consensus on the policy direction deemed most prudent at this critical juncture.
All 12 members of the committee were in attendance. The committee was unanimous in its decision to hold policy and thus decided as follows. 1. Retain the MPR at 27.50%. 2. Retain the asymmetric corridor around the MPR at plus 500 to minus 100 basis points. 3. Retain the cash reserve ratio of deposit money banks at 50% and merchant banks at 16%. 4. Retain the liquidity ratio at 30%.
Addressing members of the press following the meeting, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria and Chairman of the Monetary Policy Committee, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, outlined the committee's conclusions and the rationale underpinning its decision. According to Mr. Cardoso, the MPC observed relative improvements in several key macroeconomic indicators, developments which, in the committee's view, are likely to support a gradual moderation in prices over the short to medium term.
These include the progressive narrowing of the gap between the Nigeria Foreign Exchange Market, NIFEM, and Bureau de Change, BDC windows, the positive balance of payments position, and easing price of PMS. Members also noted with satisfaction the progressive moderation in food inflation and therefore commended the government for implementing measures to increase food supply as well as stepping up the fight against insecurity, especially in farming communities.
But before we proceed to unpack the broader implications of this historic 300th meeting of the MPC, allow us to introduce our panel of esteemed guests, each bringing a depth of experience and a distinct lens through which to view these economic signals. We begin by welcoming Mr. Gabriel Idakolo, a respected financial analyst whose voice has become familiar to our audience over the years. Good evening, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Joining him is Mr. Emmanuel Mugbolu, Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Bankers and Vice Chairman of the FCT branch, a valued and consistent contributor to policy discourse and public enlightenment. A very good evening, sir.
Good evening.
And from our newsroom, we are joined by our social affairs correspondent, Deborah Amos, who has been following reactions across the country and listening closely to the sentiments resonating from the grassroots. Deborah, what are the people saying in response to the MPC's decisions?
Many Nigerians express relief over steady prices and early signs of economic stability, noting that while times are still tough, small improvements are giving people a reason to smile again.
Thank you very much, Deborah. We shall return to you shortly for further insights, but now it's time for a brief interlude. As we pause, let's take a trip to Onyegewe, a city where ancient customs whisper through the streets, even as the winds of progress blow strong. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
E don't tell when government don't beg you. This one not be beg again, no. This one now warning. If you abuse the naira and they catch you, court will land you reach 6 months jail sentence or 50,000 naira fine or even 2 of them. So therefore, no squeeze with naira, no spray for party, no agreement they take and spray yourself, no mash am, no right on top am, no tear am, no stain am, no keep am for anyhow place. And if you want give donation or offering, put am inside envelope. Meanwhile, now also punishable offense to buy or sell naira notes. Otherwise, if they nab you, now 6 months jail sentence or 50,000 naira fine or 2 of them join. Hey, my people, respect the naira. Person will get here.
Yeah.
Aha, my people. Barkanku da zuwa. Har suya, I don't ready for here. Goat, beef, giza nama. I malam so dandy go treat you well.
Hey, okay, oh malam. But I hope say your suya no join this economy where they boil like your fire. Oh.
Everything they boil, Madam Sandra. But you hear say the CBN just finished their 300th monetary policy committee meeting?
CBN again? Now them they increase or they reduce pepper price, ne?
No, Malam, not pepper, but their decisions affect how prices behave. I mean, they just decided to retain the monetary policy rate at 27.5%.
So you mean say they no touch am?
Yes.
With all this wahala?
They retained other things too. Cash reserve ratio still 50% for banks. Liquidity ratio at 30%. They say inflation they reduce small, sha.
Inflation don't reduce, but tomato price I high past before, and even charcoal I don't cost.
I understand, but according to the Council of Elders, food inflation actually dropped to 21.26% in April, and overall inflation dropped to 23.71%. They said that the gap between the official and the parallel dollar rate is now narrow.
So you mean say all these things na good sign?
Yes, of course, but small. They still worry say electricity price high, foreign exchange demand still tight, and we still dey face global shocks like falling crude oil prices and US trade uncertainties dem.
Oh dear. So what will be the point of keeping the rate same?
Well, dem say dem still wan wait make dem see am with their korokoro eyes. If dem change am now, e go destabilize things. And you know, na like soup wey be say e dey boil, no be every time dem go dey turn am. Sometimes you gats let am cool down like dodo wey dem don fry.
Nah, wow. So, me where I dey sell am for suya? Make I dey wait too?
Yes now you dey boil soup and suya. But seriously, how all these things won't take help country people?
Well, the hope be say with better FX policies, then the ogbonge support when they go give farmers and improved food supply, prices go come down, no worry. And the banking sector, the Council of Elders say e dey stable, no shaking. Even foreign reserve don rise to $38.9 billion.
Well, make it no be say they just dey shine grammar. Because for markets, man must survive. Madu gerini henu. The recapitalization of banks better not just be for big men.
Oh, see as fire they burn my nama. It dey remind me of the economy. If you not turn am well, it go burn am.
Bam, you don't talk am. CBN and government must turn this meat well, because if country people no fit chop suya again, e mean say wahala don land o.
Until I see action will affect my pocket. One day, I know they clap anything. But make we just dey watch.
I be make I increase suya price before then, ne?
Abeg malam, give me gizzard with extra pepper.
Yauwa ina zuwa yanzu. For Onyege we suya spot, we know the increase rate, we the increase test.
Hey, that one good.
Welcome. You're still tuned to Money and the Economy. Remember, you can be a part of this conversation. Send your messages via SMS or WhatsApp to 0812-222-2018. For consumer protection or banking complaints, reach the CBN via 0817-665-7641, 0817-665-7642, 0817-665-6721, and 0708-065-1 0991. Visit www.cbn.gov.ng for more, or listen again at www.gadoagency.com.ng.
This is Money and Economy.
Now, still on the deliberations of the Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee, the body acknowledged the persistent inflationary pressures rooted largely in high electricity tariffs, unrelenting demand for foreign exchange, and a constellation of long-standing structural challenges.
The MPC noted new policies introduced by the federal government to boost local production, reduce foreign currency demand pressures, and thus lessen the pass-through to domestic prices. Given the relative stability observed in the foreign exchange market, members urged the bank to sustain the implementation of the ongoing reforms to further boost market confidence. The committee also called on the fiscal authority to strengthen current efforts at enhancing foreign exchange earnings, especially from gas, oil, and non-oil exports.
These economic headwinds, the committee observed, must be weighed alongside the pace of budget implementation and the broader fiscal outlook. But beyond the hallowed walls of policy chambers, what does all this signify in the teeming markets, in the quiet corners of family homes, and in the animated conversations unfolding across city streets and village squares alike? Well, to give voice to these everyday perspectives, we turn now to our social affairs correspondent, Deborah Amos, who has been tracking reactions from Nigerians across the country.
Thank you once again, Abdul Fattah. Sometimes, hope doesn't arrive with a trumpet. It walks in softly, dressed in small changes, whispered in neighborhood corners, felt between the fingers of market women counting their morning sales. This week, I left the newsroom and stepped into the places where policies meet reality: bakeries, tech hubs, motor parks, and farms. And while the dust of hardship still lingers, what I found was something unexpected: gratitude. Quiet, cautious, but very real.
When Forex is unstable, our dreams shrink. Last year I lost a deal because the dollar jumped overnight. But recently it's been calmer though. My developers are now paid without drama, and my cloud subscriptions don't give me chest pain. We even started budgeting quarterly again. Imagine, in Nigeria we are used to firefighting, but now it feels like we are learning to breathe.
Make I talk true. This economy don't really show us shaggy before. Where they rise, full stop, no green, calm down. But this month, it be like say breeze don dey shift small. Where I dey buy last week still remain today. Even my oga for mechanic talk say spare parts no increase like before. Na small e dey start.
There was a time I couldn't afford both kerosene and rice in the same week. Now I won't say things are easy, but at least they are no longer impossible.
So, what does all this mean? It means that across Nigeria, people are watching not just the CBN or the MPC, but the markets, the prices, the power switch, and the plate of food before their children. The 300th MPC meeting was not just a landmark in policy, it was a test in trust. And though the road ahead is still winding, the people are responding to signs of stability, slow, steady, but sincere. If these gains hold, if consistency becomes the new norm, then economic policy will no longer be a distant echo, but a neighbor knocking with good news. In Abuja, this is Deborah Amos reporting for Money and the Economy.
Thank you, Deborah. Turning now to matters of banking system stability, the committee reaffirmed that the financial system remains sound, supported by improvements in key performance indicators. The members also noted steady progress in the ongoing recapitalization of banks, a measure designed to buffer the sector against future shocks and enhance its resilience to external vulnerabilities.
The committee reaffirmed the continued stability of the banking system following notable improvements in key performance indicators and observed the appreciable progress in the ongoing recapitalization exercise. Members thus called on the bank to sustain its effective oversight of the industry to ensure compliance with regulatory and macroprudential guidelines. On the strength of these considerations and driven by the continued uncertain policy environment exacerbated by ongoing global shocks, members weighed the available policy options and were unanimous in their decision to hold policy to enable a better understanding of near-term developments.
In his remarks, the chairman of the MPC and governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, did not fail to reflect on key developments within the domestic economy and the broader global landscape.
According to the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, headline inflation year-on-year declined to 23.71% in April 2025 compared with 24.23% in March 2025. On a month-on-month basis, it also declined to 1.86% in April 2025 from 3.9% in the previous month. Both food and core components contributed to the decline in inflation in the period. Food inflation eased further to 21.26% in April 2025 from 21.79% in the previous period. Core inflation also declined to 23.39% in April 2025 compared with 24.43% in March. Real GDP year-on-year grew by 3.84% in the fourth quarter of 2024 compared with 3.46% in the preceding quarter. This improvement was driven by both the oil and non-oil sectors, with the services sector being the major contributor. Gross external reserves increased by 2.85% to $38.90 billion as at 16th of May 2025 from $37.82 billion at end of March 2025. This represents an import cover of 7.6 months for goods and services. Although global output growth is expected to remain positive despite existing and emerging headwinds, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, downgraded its global growth forecast to 2.8% in 2025 and 3% in 2026, compared with 3.3% in 2024 due to the uncertain policy environment.
According to the governor, the economic outlook is gradually firming up, aided by reforms and targeted interventions aimed at strengthening Nigeria's response to emergent shocks. Mr. Cardoso was addressing journalists in Abuja last Tuesday as he presented the communique of the 300th meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee.
This is Money and Economy.
Now, let us delve deeper into these developments with the guidance of our distinguished panel, a cohort of voices, both seasoned and perceptive, who will help us distill the true meaning behind the data, the policies, and the path that lies ahead for the Nigerian economy. We begin with Mr. Gabriel Idakolo, respected financial analyst and longtime friend of this program. Mr. Idakolo, it's always a pleasure to have you. Please share your perspective on the recent decision by the MPC.
Based on the holding of the MPR at 27.5%, the CBN clearly was looking at the improvement in the decline in the inflation rate from 24.35% to 23.71%, which is a good sign that the economy is bounding and is improving. And one of the major reasons MPR is always adjusted as a result of the inflationary trend. So the inflationary trend presently is showing that the economy is rebounding and the inflation is reducing. That is why even the CRR fuel and the other parameters were held to see how the economy will fare in the next 1 month to see what will happen.
Mr. Emmanuel Mogbolu, Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Bankers and Vice Chairman of the FCT branch, thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Now, given your industry insight, what are the implications of these monetary decisions for Nigeria's manufacturing sector?
First of all, you're going to have high interest rates with an average lending rate of over 37%. Nigerian manufacturers are finding it challenging to access affordable credit. And then, of course, it has an impact on industrialization. Of course, there are divergent views. On the other hand, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry sees the CBN's decision as a balanced approach that avoids inflationary risks while allowing for time for consistent macroeconomic trends to emerge. However, the Chamber of Industry also urges CBN to provide a clear signal of possible future easing subject to sustainable economic improvements. And of course, there's going to be the high MPR rate remains prohibitively high for the private sector, particularly the micro, small and medium scale enterprises, which is the engine of job creation and productivity in Nigeria.
Mr. Emmanuel Mogbolu, your reflections tonight, steady, thoughtful and incisive, have once again enriched our conversation. Thank you very much.
All right.
Mr. Gabriel Idakulo, your clarity and depth remains a beacon for listeners seeking understanding in complex times.
Thank you for having me.
This is Money and Economy.
And with that, we conclude this edition of Money and the Economy, a program committed to deciphering the numbers and narratives that shape Nigeria's financial future. On tonight's broadcast, we examine the outcome of the 300th meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria, which convened on May 19th and 20th, 2025. With all 12 members in attendance, the committee reached a unanimous decision reflecting consensus on the direction of economic stewardship. The Governor of the Central Bank, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, highlighted relative improvements in key macroeconomic indicators, which he said should help moderate inflationary trends in the near to medium term. This episode of Money and the Economy was brought to you by Gado Agency Limited with proud support from the Central Bank of Nigeria. For more information, visit www.cbn.gov.ng. To listen back to this edition of the broadcast and previous editions, go to www.gadoagency.com.ng. Voices in our drama were those of Gideon Kenneth, Elijah Ewa, Obinna Nadozie, and Victoria Asido. And to our dedicated production team, Malaki Ukbong, Gideon Kenneth, Deborah Amos, Kelvin Nusa, Olusegun Shitebe, and Obinna Nadozie. Special recognition to our producer, Godwin Odemije. And now, before we take our leave, allow me to leave you with this African proverb. The day a mosquito lands on your testicles, you will know there is a better way of resolving issues without using violence. Think well and be wise. I am Abdul Fattah Oturi. May your night be restful and your reflections filled with purpose. Good night.